Welcome to Save As Ability, a podcast to educate and inform you about disability employment issues. My name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Save As Ability. This one comes in from a listener, and it's a previous episode spinoff, I guess you could say, where we were talking about what I'm claiming here today, and what I'm putting out there is what I call the caretaker economy. And that is the economy that involves people with disabilities and the people in their solar system or family unit or friend unit or whatever you want to say, but people who are close to them in some way who are helping to provide caretaking services for things like, activities of daily living. So that's what we're talking about here today on Save As Ability. We're going to get right into it. So again, I'm calling it the caretaker economy. And basically what this is like, if you can think of it as like unpaid care, unpaid coordination, like, the tasks and the back office stuff that it takes to keep people with disabilities in a good place. And that's in all aspects of life. That could be in their daily activities. It could be in employment. It could be in other tasks or duties that they're doing, or recreation, whatever the case may be. But so it's hands-on help, but it's also like the coordination that oftentimes you need with the benefit programs, or, the other public programs that people with disabilities that we've talked about so often are accessing. Or maybe it's not even those, but it's other levels of care, whether it be transportation or, going to the supermarket or, medical appointments, all of those types of things, transportation, paperwork, all of those types of things is what I'm defining as the caretaker economy. All right. Now there's two components to this. The first one is the actual individual with a disability, or the person with a disability. But the other involves somebody who may or may not be a person with a disability, but it's that person that's helping to provide care for the individual with a disability. Okay. Now, I've looked at some data here, and I looked at like the Kaiser Family Foundation. They came out with a great report. KFF has a home care supports, Medicaid home care supports. Matter of fact, this is the episode it sprung from. I got the comments from people saying do more about this. So that's what we're talking about. And that's the activities of daily living. So preparing meals, managing medication, again, the report really indicates that. And that's what gave me the idea here of saying, all right, let's look at other data points and put something together here to give people an understanding of what we're talking about, that this is not an insignificant, lost in the margins type of thing. No, this is a real part of our economy. And it's often not really measured well. One thing I did look at that the BLS puts out, the Bureau of Labor Statistics puts out, they have a thing called the American Time Use Survey. All right. And that indicates that around 14% of the civilian non-institutional population ages 15 and over. All right. So we're talking around almost 40 million people here. It's like 38.2 million people. They provided unpaid elder care in the year 2023, 2024. And again, that's right from the BLS. And according to them, on any given day, 28% of elder care providers are actively providing care, which averages about 4 hours a day worth of care. Well, that's significant. If you even just put in a basic, calculation of like minimum wage hours, all of a sudden that starts to add up pretty quickly. So really, and that's just with elder care, by the way. That doesn't even encompass all individuals with disabilities, although we do know that as you age, disability does tend to go up, right? And so a large amount of seniors, I forget the data point now, but it's something like 2/3 of all people over the age of 75 reported some type of disability, I think. But so it really doesn't even fully capture, I guess, the disability caregiving for working age adults. But you can imagine that it's a big number. And I ask any research, I know we have researchers that watch the show. I would ask you, this is a great thing to focus in and study on. I think we should get better metrics and a better handle on this, because when you start then including like other public health things and mental health and, other things like that, you can imagine the amount of hours that this is adding up to. All right. I have another data point. According to the MMWR from the CDC in 2015 through 2021, the prevalence of frequent mental distress increased, and the diagnosed depression increased in both working age and seniors. All right. So we have that data point. And the talking point here is that this caregiving isn't just, well, I shouldn't say just, but isn't like the things we were just talking about, where it's transportation and it's helping you prepare your meals. Yeah, that stuff's important. But now we're getting into mental health caregiving, which is really like a whole other skill set here. And then, too often we hear stories about, undiagnosed or this tragedy that happened. And, so much of that is undefined by this workforce that, really is in place here, this economy that I don't know if it's getting the attention it deserves. And it probably should, because what it's doing is, what gets measured gets done. And if this isn't measured well, and we're pulling out anecdotes here, and I've looked around, I looked to see, can we define this better? And there's really not a lot. And I think like we need to figure this out. And this could be an economic boom too, in terms of if we can figure out how to be able to compensate these people appropriately. We did talk about in Medicaid, and, there are programs right now where you can get paid to take care of elders and things like that. Okay. But it's limited and it's not really robust. And I got a BLS projection right here. Home health and personal care aides are projected to have about 765,000 job openings per year on average going forward over the next 10 years. And that's according to the BLS. All right. And they also indicate that the median annual wage for that role is $34,000. That's not enough. Like, if we want to be able to really properly attend, we've got to be able to figure this out better and make it more lucrative to be able to have the care that our Americans with disabilities and all people deserve. Okay. So, all right. There is demand for this. We've talked about that. We just talked about it. There's a large number. Again, out of the KFF report about Medicare, it generally doesn't cover home care. There are the waivers that we've talked about. 2/3 of home care spending in the U.S. is Medicaid. Okay. So, you can see that those are at loggerheads right there. So there's an estimated 4.5 million people using Medicaid home care. All right. So that's good. But what about the larger number that we talked about? You can see that it's only reaching a percentage there. So, we've got to figure this out about aging at home and the disability supports at home and family caregiving. So, with about half of all adults having some personal connection to paid or unpaid long-term care, this isn't a niche issue. This is not some in the margins thing. This is a main issue. I don't know if we're dealing with it well, public policy wise. And so what I would say is we've got to figure out how to compensate these people better. We've got to figure out how to be able to have this be professionalized in a way that doesn't add to the government having to do it, because we've seen what happens there, the calamity with Obamacare and all these other big government programs that waste money. We've got to figure out how we can make this a capital private endeavor to be able to maximize the dollars. And guess what will happen there? Care will go up. The outcomes for individuals will go up, and it'll be an economic driver at the same time. So, yeah, I don't know. I think this is a big thing here. And I'll leave you with one stat that I got from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation that indicates that among 41 higher income nations that does not guarantee paid leave for parents, for care of lack of family members. We've got to start figuring out how to treat caregivers as part of the economy and not something that gets, nobody talks about and it's not really measured and people aren't really compensated appropriately. We can't do that. So we've got to figure out how to devise predictable capital solutions here. I'm not saying it's easy, but we can do it. All right. So the caregiver economy, I'm telling you, it's one of these things that nobody's talking about what we should be because it impacts a lot of people. And I think we can rise care and compensate people appropriately. It can be an economic driver. And when that happens, care goes up. It's a win-win-win when done well. So if you want to hear more about this, let us know. It's David D'Arcangelo, another episode of Save His Ability. And I hope you have a great day.
For more information about disability employment issues, please visit our website, disabilityemploymentsolutions.com. The Save As Ability podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel at Disability Policy Expert, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment. Save As Ability lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #TheNewRadio. Again, my name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Until next time, thank you. I hope you have a great day.